Welcome to the 8th Annual Do Good Challenge! My name is Bob Grimm, and it's my privilege to be the director of the Do Good Institute. And it's also my privilege to bring to the stage an individual that has opened all 8 of our Do Good Challenges and who has been, through his leadership, the catalyst for making the University of Maryland a leader in innovation and doing good. Please welcome to the stage President Wallace Lowe.
Hello, Maryland. Welcome to the 2019 Do Good Challenge. And Bob, thank you for your amazing leadership on this topic. I want to begin by thanking all the people and the organizations that make possible the Do Good Challenge and the Do Good Institute. Without their support, this could not be happening on this campus. And I especially want to thank and congratulate all the faculty and staff who worked with our students, and congratulate the students for participating in this competition. There were about 100 teams, and it is amazing that there are so many teams that are engaged, and congratulations to those who are semifinalists and finalists, but congratulations to all of you for participating in the Do Good Challenge. I was asked to make some very brief remarks, which I'm pleased to do. The key message I want to communicate is at a time when there are calls to make this country greater. America is great because Americans do good. Back in the mid-19th century, a French nobleman around 1840s or thereabouts traveled around this country, and he wrote a landmark book called Democracy in America. And one of the key insights of that landmark work was that what makes America great, what makes American democracy so special, is that individuals come together voluntarily and they work on behalf of their communities and solving problems for the greater public good. In other words, what today we call do good is nothing else but citizenship in action. When we serve others, when we give back to the community, we are doing good. It's not just what government does. The work of government is important, but it's also what individual citizens do, coming together, making a difference in the lives of our communities. That is what makes American democracy work. And so that is what we celebrate and what we do. And it's important to know that doing good is not a quality that we're born with. It is hard work. And to know how to do good effectively, one needs to be educated, acquire skills, have courses, which is why we are a Do Good campus. And so let me just say that I have a very traditional view of education, that education has a moral mission as well. It is not simply to prepare students to be productively employed. It is also to educate students so that they can apply their knowledge and their skills for the causes of social justice, for making a difference, and serving others in a world that is greatly in need of these blessings. That is what the Do Good Challenge and the Do Good Institute is all about. So, we are Terps. And when I raise my arm, I want you to yell, do good, as loudly as you can so that the walls of this theater will shake, okay? We serve others, and we try to make an impact on society. Therefore, we do good. When we combine our passions with compassion, we do good. We are Terps. We do good. Go Terps. Go. Do good. Thank you.
Thank you, President Lowe. The University of Maryland's Do Good campus is about engaging students inside and outside of the classroom in experiences that empower and equip them to do good. And we've been very fortunate to have a number of exciting alums, projects, and ventures that have received all kinds of awards for their impact. In fact, one of our Do Good Challenge alums, who actually judged the challenge last year, Kalyn Gray, recently was named a finalist for the Pritzker Emerging Environmental Genius Award for his efforts combating pollution through reducing stormwater runoff. And I saw Kalyn earlier this afternoon, and he pointed out that when he competed in the Do Good Challenge, he came in third. So that gives you a feel, for those of you who are new, how tough the competition is going to be tonight. And when Kalyn was a student, he was also one of the first students in our new graduate program in the School of Public Policy in Nonprofit Management. And last month, U.S. News & World Report ranked that nonprofit management program as one of the best in the country. But we're not stopping there with our Do Good campus efforts. Earlier this semester, we launched a Do Good Accelerator. And we have a group of students who will be spending the summer being paid to do good. Their jobs will be working on their projects and ventures at the Do Good Accelerator. And also, we recognize that to be a Do Good campus, we want to also support alums and students to do good for a lifetime. And so our Do Good Accelerator is also launching a Scale Your Impact program that will focus on supporting advanced project and ventures by alums and students. And growing our Do Good campus is extremely important because we're at an exciting time in our country's history. There's an all-time high in entering college students' desire to help others, desire to be a community leader. But while research has shown that there is still somewhat stagnant youth participation across the country. And so it's even more important that the Do Good campus create even more opportunities here in Maryland, and we find partners across the country that can provide even more high-quality opportunities that take what students are passionate about and empower them to change the world for good. And if you would just allow me to take a minute or two, I'd like to thank a number of important sponsors and partners that have made the Do Good Challenge finals possible. First, I want to thank our lead sponsor and the company that has been the lead sponsor for the Do Good Challenge for 7 years, Morgan Stanley Private Wealth Management. And I want to particularly, and I want to particularly thank Michael O'Neill, who's here, who's been a huge advocate for the Do Good Institute and the Do Good Challenge. And we also are very fortunate to have the Rothschild Foundations as a new sponsor of the Do Good Challenge and as a partner with us in growing our Do Good campus. And we really appreciate David Rothschild and all of his wonderful partners who are here tonight. And another new sponsor is the Richard and Nancy Marriott Foundation. They're a foundation that focuses on developing innovative partnerships to uplift our community. And one other exciting sponsor I want to emphasize is Freed Photography, which has been our photographer for all 8 of the Do Good Challenges. And I want to tell you the photos are exquisite. And if you're looking for a photography company, look no further than Freed Photography. So let's get a round of applause for Freed Photography and the Richard and Nancy Marriott Foundation. I also want to thank Dean Bob Orr. The Do Good Institute is housed in the School of Public Policy, and it is under Bob's leadership that the Do Good effort started and has reached new heights. Please give a round of applause for Dean Bob Orr. And I also want to thank on the screen a number of important community partners that make the Do Good Challenge possible. It is with their collaborative effort that we're able to support so many students and exciting projects you're going to see tonight. And I also want to thank the Do Good Challenge planning team that's been working on this effort all year, Kalyn Gray, Laura Griffin, and Andrew Knutson. And I also want to thank one last group, I promise, one last group. Keisha Logan, Sarah Gallagher, Chris Raycam, Tricia Homer, and Sagar Doshi for coaching our Do Good Challenge finalists. Now, for those of you who this is your first Do Good Challenge, you're in for a treat. Here's how it works. Each of our 6 finalists will have 5 minutes to pitch their effort, their impact, and why they should win the top $5,000 prize. And then our panel of judges will have a total of 4 minutes to ask concise questions and get concise answers from our finalists. But you all in the audience also have a very important role. After all 6 finalists pitch, we're going to do an audience choice award. And the group that gets the most votes from the audience will win $2,500 for their project or venture. Yes, round of applause. Why not? Yeah. So you're all judges tonight, so pay close attention to all 6 finalists, because after the challenge, after all 6 of the pitches, you'll get to vote for the one that you think should get the $2,500 Audience Choice Award. And now, I'd like to bring to the stage our distinguished first panel of judges, and I'd ask that you please hold your applause until I'm able to introduce all 3 of them. Our first judge is Nikki Gorin. She's the president and CEO of the Meyer Foundation. She's been leading an innovative, pioneering strategy to focus on equitable solutions to our larger community. She's the former president and CEO of the Washington Area Women's Foundation. And she's a great friend of the Do Good Institute and the Do Good Challenge. In fact, she's one of many people in the audience who was actually at the first Do Good Challenge in 2012. Our second fabulous judge is Paul Monteiro. Paul is a proud Terp. He's the chief of staff of Howard University. He is also on the Prince George's School Board. He served as the director of AmeriCorps Vista. He served in the Obama White House. And he's a very impressive individual, as you can see. So we're very fortunate to have him, and he's also served as one of our Do Good Now judges in the past. And you start saying to yourself, look at these distinguished judges, who's coming third? Our third judge is Dana Priest. She's a 2-time Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist for the Washington Post. She just recently won a Peabody for her Frontline documentary on Facebook. And she also inspired and developed a course with journalism students that created a project called Press Uncuffed. And this group called Press Uncuffed, they focused on journalists who were imprisoned abroad. And through their advocacy and efforts, 8 journalists that they've focused on for their advocacy efforts because they have been falsely imprisoned abroad just for doing their job have now been freed. Please give a round of applause for our 3 distinguished judges. And now, my friends, it's time for the main event. And now, here is what the first project track is. The project track is for student efforts that could be fundraising, advocacy, awareness for an existing cause or organization. Past finalists, for example, over a number of years have raised $4.2 million for a children's hospital. Another past finalist has developed a long-term partnership in Honduras and built 9 schools in that country. So what do you say? Let's get started. All right, let's hear our first finalist.
Please welcome Camp Kesem. Hi, I'm Devin Kane. As you can tell, I'm definitely a mama's boy. I have a lot of really great memories with my mom growing up, like going hiking and arts and crafts projects, like dancing around the living room to 1,000 Miles, because I need you. But above all, I remember March 3rd, 2004. I was in first grade at the time. My mom had been battling breast cancer for a while, but she was so strong she never really showed it. I went to school that day thinking it was going to be a normal day at school, and then halfway through class, the teacher just stopped teaching. And everyone in the class froze, and I slowly turned to the door, and I saw my dad standing there with my brother. And my dad's eyes were red, tired, and broken. It was at that moment that I knew. The years to follow proved rougher and rougher. We all took different roles in the family to try to keep a broken home together. We got jobs, and while other kids were worrying about things like a math test, I worried about things like what we were going to eat for dinner that night, or if I would see my dad before I went to bed. The struggles that we went through as a family to try to stay together, growing up without a mom, was something that no kid should ever have to deal with. But through it all, I had the support of my mom's sister, my Aunt Debbie. She was the crazy aunt. She was so funny. She was so cool. She even got me backstage to meet the cast of Hamilton. I know. So she became a huge part of my support system growing up without a mom. And 2 years ago, my Aunt Debbie developed breast cancer. And last year, January 27th, my aunt passed away from breast cancer. Her kids, my cousins, Ryan and Jackson, were only 7 and 9 years old at the time, the same age we were when my mom passed away. I went to the funeral and I struggled watching an old rerun, seeing them begin to grow up without their mom. It broke my heart. The worst part is, our stories aren't even that unique. There are over 5 million children in the United States affected by a parent's cancer. 5 million kids just like us, feeling so alone. But what if we could bring these kids together? What if we could show them that, yeah, cancer sucks, but we can get through it on the other side tougher? I wasn't just going to stand around and watch as my cousins had the same childhood we did. So that's why we brought a chapter of Camp Kesem to the University of Maryland. Camp Kesem is a free, week-long summer camp for kids whose parents have been affected by cancer. We provide year-round support and programming, sending birthday cards, care packages, doing camper check-in calls, and we have 2 reunions, one in the fall, one in the spring, to provide support all year round for these kids, to show them that they're not alone. This past summer, we had our first ever Camp Kesem at University of Maryland. We had 32 campers, 19 counselors, 4 admin staff, 2 nurses, 1 mental health professional, and $32,000 raised, all by us, to make camp free for every single camper. We rented out the campsite, Camp St. Charles, right on the Chesapeake Bay. Very beautiful, beautiful campsite. And we had all sorts of fun activities. We had a giant rope swing. We had canoeing. We had therapy dogs. And my personal favorite, messy games. Camp Kesem isn't just one week where a bunch of sad kids mope around and talk about the things they've been through and how their lives are hard. It's the best week of these kids' lives. The point is to show these kids that, yeah, life sucks, but we can have fun. And more importantly, they can still be kids. We only have one day that's openly dedicated to talking about a parent's cancer, and that's during our empowerment ceremony. During the empowerment ceremony, campers are encouraged to share their stories and talk about their families and the things that they've been through growing up. But more importantly, they get to listen to one another. And I can't express enough how life-changing it is for them to hear that the things they're going through, they're not alone. We have 16 different passionate coordinators from all walks of life at UMD that help plan each and every aspect of camp. And as a chapter of a larger nonprofit, we have the resources and the guidance to ensure our sustainability for many, many years to come. But we do everything ourselves. All the fundraising, all the getting campers, getting counselors, planning every single activity. It's all done by us, University of Maryland students. What you would expect from a national Camp Kesem chapter, the first year would be 25 campers, and the second year, 40 campers. This past summer, we had 32 campers, and we already have 50 kids signed up to come to camp this summer, and we're still months away from August. In terms of expected fundraising for a Kesem chapter, nationals would expect the first year for a chapter to raise $25,000. Last year, we raised $32,000, and from their expected $40,000 in the second year, we've already raised over $68,000 for camp this summer. And I'm no engineering major, but that's over $100,000 in 1.5 years, which is pretty remarkable. The Do Good funds would be huge for the growth and sustainability of Camp Kesem because we rely heavily on our relationships within the community. We would use the money towards creating a camp video for recruitment so that people who haven't been to camp can see how incredible camp really is. This would be huge to gain counselors and recognition on campus as well as in the local community for parents to see the video and see, yeah, this camp looks pretty professional. It looks great. I'll send my kids to a camp run by college students, sure. We'd also use it towards having a really fun charity concert to boost our fundraising and awareness on campus. And finally, we'd use it to invest in advertisement, to outreach to underserviced families. Because right now, we don't tap into any sort of Google or local newspapers, none of that. And this would be a huge outlet to reaching out to so many more campers. One of our campers this past summer said Camp Kesem was something I never knew how much I needed. I never had Camp Kesem growing up. And I know the impact that it would have had on my life. I get to watch, though, as my cousins, Ryan and Jackson, grow up with Camp Kesem by their side. They went to our first ever Camp Kesem this past summer. Pretty cool. It brings me peace of mind knowing that they're going to have Camp Kesem every single step along the way. I can't express to you how incredible Camp Kesem is and the impact it has on these kids' lives. Camp Kesem isn't just a summer camp. Camp Kesem changes lives. Help us show these kids they're not alone. Help us keep Camp Kesem at University of Maryland for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, David. That was so impressive. Obviously, you could have so many more people coming to the camp. And so the question is about the fundraising. How do you now raise most of your money? And how would the winning the Do Good Award help you sustain that? You mentioned a video. Is there a fundraising video in the works too?
Yeah, so really good question. So for the first part of your question, so most of the fundraising actually comes from crowdsourcing. So our University of Maryland students are incredibly passionate about the cause, as am I. So we do a lot of the fundraising ourselves. So that's sharing the link with family, friends, basically, grandparents, that rich neighbor, everyone we can share it with. So that's where a lot of our fundraising comes from. And then in terms of the sustainability of the organization and how the Do Good funds would contribute to that, like I said, there are 3 main events that we would use the Do Good funds for. The first is the video. Having that video to send out to parents, these relatives and stuff, would be huge because right now we send them a post saying, we're involved in this camp and we love it, da-da-da. But it's hard to show them how much that means. And having that video to send to your family and send to your uncle, send to that rich neighbor, it really would make a difference in being able to see the impact that camp has and how professional and real it is. The second event, the charity concert, we did the math, and so we actually had a fundraising ball 2 weeks ago that successfully raised $15,000 in net donations. So we would replicate that similar kind of event and our structure with that to create a charity concert, which expected revenues would go over $10,000 from having a concert.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
One question on the expansion into the underserved population. What percentage of the year 1 campers were underserved? And what supports, if any, would you build into the program to serve students or kids coming from a underprivileged background?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. In terms of the exact specific percentage amounts of demographics and stuff, I don't know those by heart, and I'm not sure if logistically we should be sharing that specific information, but I can tell you that in terms of support for these kids, we provide everything. So I mentioned that camp is completely free for these kids. And something I want to emphasize with that is we provide anything they need for that camp. So if campers need, for example, swim shoes or a towel or a pillow, anything they need resource-wise to come to camp, we provide that no questions asked. And we actually, when we do our camper check-in calls, we call each of the families before camp, and we ask that. We say, no judgment. Is there anything we can help support you guys to camp? We provide a bus. We can provide cars. We can do whatever they need to get from place to place. And then also at camp, whatever they might need, we will provide it, period, no questions asked.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So a quick comment and then a question. My comment is, this really speaks to me as someone who lost my mother when I was a girl and to cancer and didn't have any supports like this. It means a lot. My question is, so you said that some of the money would go to outreach. How are you doing outreach now? How are you identifying the kids that have come through so far?
Yeah, that's
How
a
do
really,
they know about you?
really great question. So because we're all college kids, our reach is really only as far as our arms can reach, in the sense that we can hop in cars, we can drive to local hospitals, local hospice centers. And a big thing too is we can't go out to these hospitals and talk to the kids ourselves, talk to the parents who are affected by cancer. We can't talk to these people ourselves for obvious privacy reasons. So we rely heavily on our community partners. And so that's where going to hospitals, going to hospice centers, and leaving pamphlets for them and creating these relationships. We focus on capitalizing our relationships with the community, right? So not just going and dropping off pamphlets, but actually having a connection with the person there that we're talking to so they can spread the word about it within their location and have a relationship for years and years to come with Camp Kesem. And then, yeah, did you have a second part of that?
Thank you.
I think we have room for a couple more. You also rely on your volunteers that do all this work. So how do you make sure that you have enough volunteers year after year? You're drawing exclusively on the UMD community?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Also, I remember the second half of your question that I forgot. You asked how the funds would contribute to that in the advertisements. And so with the fact that our reach is only as far as we can drive, being able to post things on Google advertisements in neighborhoods, different newspapers that are flying around, that would be huge to reach all these families that we can't drive to and drop off pamphlets for them to see. Maybe, they don't have these resources at these hospice centers, but maybe they could click on it on a website as it pops up. Anyway, so volunteers. So all our volunteers are University of Maryland students, and capitalize on that, they do volunteer. Everyone's volunteering their time to help out Camp Kesem because we're just so passionate. And we fundraise a bunch of money, so we really do give back to the organization, and we run it. And so in terms of the longevity about that and how we recruit our volunteers, how we get that, aside from so everyone's so passionate that we have a first look fair in the beginning of the year, which is where a bunch of organizations talk about their camp. And we have like 10 people at the stand who are like, join our organization, join our organization. And so that's a huge way that we recruit a lot of people. No, seriously, it's huge for us. It is huge. And so that is a great way to not just get counselors to join the camp, but more importantly, get freshmen, right? Because you want to start with the younger people so they can continue in the organization for years and years to come, to help run it, to do leadership positions, and invest in their future. And so at the first look fair, it's largely freshmen. And so we have a huge incoming flux of freshmen. And right now our coordinator board, 16 people, it's actually approximately 50% is actually underclassmen. So we have seniors, but we also have people in the organization that'll be here for many, many, many years to come.
Great.
And flyers and posts on Facebook, all those other things.
Okay.
Thank you. Camp Kesem.
Thank you.
Please welcome Flame. Yes, go.
I want to introduce you all to two people, Amelia and Mehdi, elementary schoolers that are part of our after-school science enrichment program, foundational learning and mentorship experience, or FLAME. When they first walked into our class at the beginning of the year, they rarely raised their hands in class, and their teachers told us they averaged C's and D's. Their science interests started and stopped with them drawing a sun in the corner of their paper. But it turns out that they're at that critical age where they're deciding where their interests lie. And more often than not, they lie within the science fields. In fact, in a national survey of elementary and middle school girls, 78% of them stated interest within STEM fields. yet less than 20% of them actually pursue it on a college level. In the same vein, 58% of minorities stated interest in STEM, yet less than 10% of them actually pursue it on a college level. And when you're missing that much DNA, how can you possibly create a solid foundation for a diverse society? And in this regard, the US is alone. In 65 countries across the globe, girls outperformed boys on a science aptitude test in every country except the United States. So this is not a biological problem. This is a cultural phenomenon that can be fixed within our school system. And the key to fixing it is mentorship. In fact, students who had proper mentorship at the age where Amelia and Mehdi are at right now drew even with their counterparts, regardless of socioeconomic status or parental education. And that mentorship is exactly what Flame gives our students. Currently, we are centered in 2 Title I Prince George's County schools, Adelphi Elementary School and Charles Carroll Middle School, where 20 of our mentors teach complex scientific topics to 100 students. Our students learn about things like computer science and aerodynamics. They've built a fire extinguisher and a circuit of LED lights, and even have extracted DNA from a strawberry. But I want to able to quantify the impact that we have. And so we gave our students an entrance survey at the beginning of a year with one simple question. On a scale of 1 to 5, how interested are you in science? Students in both schools stated a 2 out of 5. Just this past week, we gave them an exit survey with the same exact simple question. On a scale of 1 to 5, how interested are you in science? Our middle schoolers now stated a 4.5, and our elementary schoolers, a 4.7. And that's because Flame wants to build a mentorship pipeline for students in Prince George's County. We believe that exploration through our program will be the kindling for self-discovery, which will then translate into real-world experience and thus confidence within STEM. Forget the school-to-prison pipeline. We're creating a school-to-pedagogy passageway. And our success is partly in thanks to the Food Recovery Network, which has allowed us the ability to recover a full nutritious meal for our students because 75% of them go without eating the entire day. In fact, our last calculation, we have recovered 1,600 meals for our students, removing that additional barrier to their education. Now, what would $5,000 be able to do? It would cover 4 very impactful things for our organization. It would cover 1 full year of operational costs in both of our schools for the continuing education of 100 students. It would cover the background checks for a 75% increase in mentorship so that we can continue accepting more students into our organization. It would also cover expansion into William Wirt Middle School and Bladensburg High School, 2 schools that have already expressed interest in our expansion. And finally, it would cover a field trip to the Chesapeake Bay Environmental Center, a 510-acre sanctuary where students will go on a guided kayak tour in order to see the restoration and preservation efforts already underway in our Chesapeake Bay area. So I ask you here today, what do you love? Create, inspire, and dream. When I asked Amelia and Mehdi those questions, they both told me the same thing, that they want to go to college and teach others like we taught them. They now raise their hands in class, and they just finished this past quarter with all A's in their science classes. They built the strongest spaghetti and marshmallow structure during our civil engineering lesson. And that's because here at Flame, we believe the world is changed by action and not opinion. And Flame takes fearless ideas and turns idealism into impact. Every day, we have a chance to do something, and Flame does more than just something. We're looking to pave the way to a new scientific frontier, and you all can help with that. Thank you.
after we're done, I'd like you to teach me how to extract the DNA from a strawberry. That was very interesting. What is your fundraising model now? And is that an integral part of what you do, or would this be the first donated money that you would have?
No, so we get a lot of money from seed funds with the Do Good Institute. We've applied every semester for a seed fund grant. We were also taking part of the Do Good Course Now Challenge 2 years ago, where we won first place as well. So we received money from that. Other than that, it's crowdsourcing through GoFundMe's. And last year, we had a fundraiser every single week of the year so that we can raise money for our students, and all of that money goes directly into funding experiments for our students.
Thank you.
So I'm a proud graduate of Adelphi Elementary School. First in my family to get out of high school. And so I'm glad to hear what you're doing. And still, I live near Adelphi Elementary School, and I know some of the struggles with a number of students coming from undocumented backgrounds. How have you addressed the language issues, if any, and engage all of the students, some of whom may not be born in the U.S., but be learning English as their second language?
The mentors that go to the school, there's an equal number of male and female mentors, and they come from very diverse backgrounds. So I know that I look a certain type of way, but that's not how every single mentor looks in our organization. So we do have people from multiple different backgrounds that speak other languages that are able to assist those students as well. So as I said before, the organization's main goal is removing any barriers to their education, and we do exactly that. We have people who are able to communicate in all the languages that are pertinent at that school.
And what are the most popular languages at Adelphi?
Spanish, yeah.
So thank you. So I'm curious, is this an after-school program or during the day?
Yes, so it's an after-school program that starts right after school ends, and it's because we don't want to affect the students during their actual education during school. This is in addition to actually going to school, yes.
So, a lot of after-school programs are in a lot of different schools. I'm curious if you could talk about how you created the relationship with the school.
Yes.
Such that you were invited in to be part of their after-school curriculum.
So we started this program 3 years ago at the end of my freshman year. It was originally Students for the Advancement of Women in Science, or SAWS. So it was specifically for women in science, but we realized we were putting self-inflicted parameters on our organization, and that's why we expanded into FLAME. So it's all underrepresented groups within STEM. With regard to going into the school, it was a little bit easier 3 years ago. There wasn't as much bureaucratic red tape when it came to expanding into schools, so we were able to actually just email the principal and multiple science teachers, and they allowed us to go into the school. In recent years, it's been very hard to expand, and we actually were part of an MOU that Maryland and PGCPS signed, and because of our organization being part of that MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding between PG County Public Schools and the University of Maryland, we're actually able to expand to any school within Prince George's County that we would like.
Great.
So I have a follow-up, which is, so you're going to be a senior next year?
Yes,
Okay.
well, I'm a senior this year.
You're a
so
senior this
graduating
year.
in a couple of weeks.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
But tell me about who's going to take it over when you're
Yes.
graduated?
So our board of directors, we had 5 members of the board last year. They were all seniors, and every other person in the organization is not a senior. So we've already had elections in order to maintain the longevity of our organization. We have 3 board, so we realized that 5 members of the board was a little bit too much. So we lowered it down to 3. We have people taking over all of those positions at the moment, and all of the other mentors are within other years of their college career. So none of them are seniors. So other than the original 5 board members, we're not losing any other seniors or any other mentors.
And how has the school district partnered with you, other than accepting your free time and wonderful idea? Have they invested anything in it to make sure it keeps going?
Yes, so activity buses, we have ability to remove that additional barrier to getting home. There's activity buses that run as well on the days that we're at the school so that students can get home safely. And other than that, it's just been a lot of support within the classroom, making sure that the program continues going at those schools and that we can advertise within science classrooms as well in order to attain more students from those schools.
Thank you, Flame. Please welcome Public Health Without Borders.
Good evening, I'm June,
And I'm Viraj.
and we represent Public Health Without Borders. Throughout the world, developing nations face basic health issues that have simple, cost-effective solutions. 1.8 million children die each year due to diarrheal diseases and pneumonia, but over 20% of those kids could have been protected by something as simple as hand washing. We see a similar narrative with other health issues, such as oral hygiene, nutrition, first aid, and adolescent development. So that's where we come in. Public Health Without Borders provides health education to children around the world. Based out of the School of Public Health, our mission is to increase awareness about good health practices while offering undergraduates the opportunity to engage with the global community. So how do we do this? First, we will leverage our UMD resources to identify a partner community that we can develop a relationship with. Then we'll perform a needs assessment trip where we'll interview and survey the community members to learn more about their health behaviors and cultural practices. That information allows us to identify a key health issue. With that issue in mind, students will work right here on campus in weekly meetings to design a workshop that addresses that health need. We recognize that this campus has a breadth and depth of knowledge to offer, so we involve our faculty and graduate students to help us refine our workshop material. With our workshop designed and suiting the community best, we're able to travel to implement it. So a team of undergraduates will travel abroad and provide health education to the community. But the process doesn't end there. The whole time, students are involved in evaluating our impact even while they're in country. Evaluation helps us improve our organization and the services we can offer. Now that you know how we design a project, I want to emphasize two core values that set us apart from other service learning organizations. The first is cultural competency. We make sure that our workshops are appropriate for the population we're working with by taking into account the beliefs and social environment of that target population. In addition, we focus on sustainability. We utilize a train-the-trainer approach so that community leaders can repeat these workshops without us using the information we've provided. These two core elements define our brand and help us develop lasting relationships with our partners.
So now we've talked a little bit about who we are and what we do, so let's get to our impact. Our impact is in 4 countries, beginning in Competency, Peru. Working with University of Maryland, Baltimore dental students, we are planning our 5th trip centered on oral hygiene in Competency. The past 4 trips, we have worked with 1,000 students in Competency, and this summer, we are going to be working with an additional 350 students. In Kalabatown, our workshop is focusing on first aid practices, and it is going to be our 4th workshop. Our workshop is aiming to address, like I said, first aid, but with 250 students. Emphasizing sustainability, we will be funding the training of 5 community health workers in Sierra Leone, which each are going to provide critical health information and services to 100 community members each within the first year. In Varanasi, India, we will be conducting our 2nd intervention focused on child nutrition, where our workshop will be reaching 100 students in both urban and rural communities. We are also coordinating a medical supply drive with the Banaras Hindu University, where we'll be donating 300 pounds of medical supplies to a network of primary care clinics in rural India. But while we see these health issues globally, we also realize that there are key disparities right here in our own backyard. This year, we are conducting adolescent development workshops with an international high school right here in Langley Park, Maryland. Since 2014, we have conducted and organized 10 trips, created a community of 500 undergraduates to reach 2,300 children globally. So what would $5,000 mean to us? Well, $1,000 of it would go towards funding student travel for the next year. Many of our incredible students have financial barriers to travel, and we never want this to be an issue for them. $400 will pay for the transportation of over 300 pounds of medical supplies from right here in College Park to rural India. $1,600 will fund an additional 5 community health workers in Sierra Leone, which will go outside of Kalabatown, our partner community, to expand their reach and provide critical primary care information and services to community members in Sierra Leone. And the rest of our $2,000, it focused towards a key issue of public health without borders with this year, expanding our undergraduate-led model to universities all around the country. Currently, no organization in the Big Ten no current university in the Big Ten has an organization like Public Health Without Borders. $400 will be spent towards filing as a federally registered nonprofit organization. And next is our Big Ten Leadership Retreat. $1,600 will go towards a budget for a Big Ten Leadership Retreat and provide seed funding to catalyze the formation of partner chapters across Big Ten universities. As sad as this makes me, University of Maryland will not be and is not the best in the Big Ten at football. It really makes me sad. But with the support of the Do-Good Institute, we can be the best in undergraduate-led global health development. Look, as University of Maryland students, we are taught time and time again to spread our fearless ideas. Public Health Without Borders, we have a fearless idea, and we are excited to work with all of you to push it forward and leverage it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would like to know a little bit about the cultural education that you give students before going, because obviously you're coming from outside these countries, and that could be problematic. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, thank you. That's a great question. This is very, very important to us. We spend every weekly meeting, aside from designing the workshop, we're learning as much as we can about this community and the people in it, including the children in it that we're going to teach. So that means in the beginning of meetings, we'll do an educational aspect about what kind of food they eat, what kind of clothes they wear, the language they speak, other things like that that are really important to how we're going to design this workshop. So I'll just give you an example. In India, we want to do this nutrition workshop, and we know that these students are lacking protein. They're vegetarian though, so we can't come over there with a Western diet and telling them to eat meat as their protein source. We had to get creative and find a way to adapt for them.
Okay. And I think you said you had 500 undergrad students that have participated. That seems like a great asset to leverage. How do you message to and communicate and keep them engaged even after they're no longer students to support your important work?
Yeah, so I'll answer that in 2 ways. So the first way is right now we've designed an alumni network, so we're in constant communication with our undergraduates once they graduate, and we think, and they are, a fantastic asset to our current undergraduates. You know, who's not a better leader of Public Health Without Borders than someone who has gone to a partner community, done the workshop, and can come back and teach our current undergraduates. And then the second part of that is, how we continuously involve more undergraduates on campus and, stay involved. So we have an incredibly active listserv that is active every week, in addition to our weekly meetings. We also hold many events that advertise our organization, such as the Holiday Fair, which also serves as a fundraiser for us, and that's held each winter, where all of our projects get to cook some food that's native to their community, and we have faculty from all over the university come, eat some great food, talk to our undergrads. It's a fantastic event. And we're also present at a lot of conferences on campus, as well as the First Look Fair and all major undergraduate recruitment events.
Thank you.
Thanks. I have two questions, if I may. You described this program as a service learning program, and you've talked about the impact that you're having in the communities. Can you talk about the impact on the students that are participating?
Of course, thank you. I'm so glad you asked that. Service learning has two aspects to it, right? It's the service we provide to the community, but it's what we get as university students. We find that it is so important to foster, here at University of Maryland, to foster what are going to become global citizens, regardless of what they end up doing in their career, right? So we're making sure that these students that are abroad, even if they don't get to work on our travel team, that when they're working on the workshops here on campus, that they're engaging with this community and they're learning how to work with people from other cultures and how to think about how other people live in other parts of the world.
Great, thank you. And my second question is, you talked about going abroad and into communities to identify the health issues. Can you talk a little bit more about that process and how you identify them?
So the identification of the health need is done during the needs assessment trip. So we've already established a relationship at that point with the community. So community leaders are able to give us some insight into where we should start looking. But most of these surveys are done with parents and adults in the community, so teachers of the primary schools we work at. Children will give us some insight in group surveys because we feel it's inappropriate to give them one-on-one interviews. But most of our information is from the parents and the adults that understand what is lacking in the community.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Public Health Without Borders.
All right, how about one more round of applause for our project finalist? And now our three judges, as you can see, they are going to go to the green room and discuss who's going to get first, second, and third in the project track. And now we're going to start with our venture track, which are student-created social enterprises, nonprofits, or businesses. And we have three fabulous judges. And I ask you to again hold your applause until I've introduced all three of them. Our first judge, serving as our honorary Morgan Stanley judge, is Rosie Allen Herring. She's the president and CEO of the United Way of the Capital Region. And she's also an individual who's had an award-winning career in business. In fact, she's won so many awards as a leader in business that she's a great Morgan Stanley honorary judge because earlier this spring, she was named one of the 25 most influential women in business. You know, I said, hold your applause, but how can you with these impressive judges? Our second impressive judge is Dan Porterfield. He's the president and CEO of the Aspen Institute. He's the former president of Franklin and Marshall College. He's known as one of the leading innovators in the education space, and he was named a 2016 White House Champion of Change. And our last judge is Ben Simon. Ben won the first Do Good Challenge back in 2012 for creating the Food Recovery Network, which, I'll get a little round of applause already, which has gone on to become the largest student movement around reducing food waste and hunger in the country. But Ben is now the founder and CEO of Imperfect Produce, the leading company in the country that sells ugly produce. As Ben likes to say, the only reason this produce has gone to waste in the past is because it didn't match the beauty pageant standards of grocery stores. And his company, Imperfect Produce, is now on 16 different markets, and the company has saved over 40 million pounds of produce that would have gone to waste if not for their company. All right, my friends, let's get started with our three venture finalists.
Please welcome Hyde Rays.
Hi. I'm Charles. You may remember me from last year's lightning pitch when I inspired the audience to invest $750 in my toilet flushing idea. Well, this year, I'm back with a new company name, prototypes, patent applications, pilot tests, and a whole lot more. But first, I want to take you back to freshman year. I was a young mechanical engineer ready to take on a leading sustainability university, or so I thought. I very quickly became distraught when I learned of a huge area of water waste. Every time I'd go to the bathroom, I'd notice the toilet would flush way more than I needed it to. I'd step into the stall, and then out of nowhere, boom, there was a flush. I'd hang up my coat, boom, it happened again. I'd take a seat, and a third time. It was really annoying and wasteful, and it happened all the time. And by my sophomore year, I got so fed up that I decided I was going to solve the problem. So I did some research, and I learned the reason this happens is because the automatic sensors measure distance as their indicator to determine when to flush. But distance is a really poor metric to use because the user can move back and forth within a stall multiple times in a single use. Furthermore, the leading study on this issue, which is called phantom flushing, revealed that automatic toilets phantom flush at a rate of 45% of the time. What that means is, judges, if you spent the day at Maryland, you three have wasted that entire 5-gallon jug. For the rest of us in the audience, we've wasted more like 1,000 gallons. What does that look like? If this is our student union, then this is how much we've wasted today. But think about the entire university. Over the course of a year, that's more like 100 million gallons, $2 million, or 91 students' yearly tuition literally flushed down the toilet. Yeah. When I found out about that last one, I was pissed. No pun intended. So in order to create a solution, I started by talking to the experts, facilities managers who represent some of the biggest buildings on campus. And I learned that any solution I made would need to offer the same level of cleanliness as existing sensors and have a 1-year return on investment. So with that, I created a simple yet elegant solution, a method of automatic flushing based on the activity of the stall latch. Every time you unlock the door, that told the toilet to flush. It only flushed once, as necessary, as the user was leaving, guaranteeing that level of cleanliness without a single phantom flush. This picture, by the way, was taken from a full utility patent application I filed this past winter break with the help of a law firm. To turn this idea into a reality, I began working closely with Mr. Bill Brandwine, facility manager of this building. I learned that if I wanted to generate sales, I'd first need to prove that there was a problem by testing at least 30 toilets for 30 days, then prove that my Hyde Rays solution would save all of that. And if I could demonstrate that 1-year return on investment, then it'd be a solution that he'd fully support. So in order to get there, I had to create 2 devices, a flush counter that attaches to the existing automatic flusher, counts the total number of flushes, and a latch counting device that attaches to the latch, counts the number of openings or expected flushes. Subtract expected from total, and we have our phantom flush number. These devices exist. They are installed in this building, and if you don't believe me, you can go check your nearest bathroom. Right now, we've seen a pretty familiar 45% phantom flush rate with about $80 wasted per toilet per year. For the entire building, that's more like $7,000. And the best part is, I can already produce these devices for less, meaning the solution is both practical and cost-effective. So we can save all 91 of those students' tuitions. Thank you. Before I conclude, I first want to talk about what water conservation actually means. People need water for everything, from energy generation to irrigation to agriculture. Human society is dependent on water. Without it, we have drought, wildfire, and spread of disease. 3 million people across the globe die prematurely every year from insufficient access to clean water. The Office of Sustainability recognizes the severity of water and they've recommended a reduction by 100 million gallons by the end of 2020. Policy alone is not enough to make this difference. They have seen the Hyde Rays solution, we've shown them our calculations, and they are so excited that they've already given us 2 grants to pursue it. The people who care about this issue the most believe in us. So we're asking for you to do the same. $5,000 would be a tremendous boost towards our efforts. It allows us to accelerate through the prototyping phase, through the piloting phase, hit sales by January 2020, and reach 90 buildings by the end of 2020, making a 16 million gallon larger difference. Hyde Rays is not a toilet company. We are drivers of water conservation with a mission of protecting the planet's most valuable resource, so that future generations will never deal with the same drought, famine, spread of disease that we have now. Thank you.
Phenomenal job, and thank you for the education. As you think about the prototype that you've submitted your patent for, what are your next steps in that light, regardless of what happens tonight?
In regards to the invention or the
Yes.
testing? So we're working with a law firm right now. We're trying to get this converted into a full utility patent. And what we're going to do with that is not only install these devices as they are now, but we're going to build out a wet platform too. So not only are we going to save them all that phantom flush money, but we will have a platform that gives facilities managers real-time updates based on any sort of water usage with their toilets. And it'll allow them to know if there are any unusual activities like a continuous flush, leaks, or anything. And this is something that they've actually indicated they're really excited about. They'd be willing to pay a subscription. So it gives us an opportunity to build out the business beyond just the stall flushing component.
Perfect, thank you.
Charles, thank you for that. That was a phenomenal presentation, and you are a brave man for taking on this important issue. I remember my freshman year in McKeldin one night studying late, and man, it was like a war zone in there. It was just going off nonstop, and you don't know what's going on or why, and so I appreciate it. I appreciate the fun, colorful storytelling. How do you think you price this when you take this to market?
That's a fantastic
and, what do you
question.
think your cost will be at scale?
Okay. So facilities managers have mentioned that 1 year return on investment is a huge deal for them. That's what we're going to try to hit. So we're going to price our devices at what the average yearly waste is for these toilets. We're going to sell them to it at that, so they're guaranteed to be saving money within the first year. And then we're going to start making money off of the subscription from our water monitoring dashboard. So we're going to have consistent revenue during the life of the device.
And for that 1 year average yearly waste per toilet, how much would that be?
Right now, we've seen about $80 of waste per year.
Okay.
Although that's from men's rooms toilets, it could be possible that there's even more from women's rooms.
And you're losing half your audience here. And Charles, what do you think your cost will be at scale if you're going to charge $80 plus you think you can layer on the subscription with the software stuff you're doing? How much do you think it's going to cost you to manufacture them at scale?
Like I was saying before, right now it costs us $67 to make. So once we hit scale, we should be able to dramatically cut that down to maybe like $20 or so. So we should be able to make profit on the first year by selling the devices and then just rely on the subscriptions after that.
Thank you, Charles. This is a pretty exciting invention. I have 2 questions for you that I like to ask entrepreneurs. And the first one is, what was the hardest problem you had to overcome conceptually in developing this idea? And secondly, can you speak a little bit about the team that works with you?
The hardest problem to overcome, I think, was honestly just convincing people that this was a real problem. It's something that people find funny, like everybody's been laughing, but to think about how much water waste there actually is and convince people, like, these toilets, it's a very serious source of water waste. It took a lot of work, but with the prototypes, with the data that we've collected, it's becoming less of a joke and more of a serious, like, we're gonna be able to save millions of gallons of water. And the other question was about the team. So I would consider the entire University of Maryland part of my team. I've received support from the Office of Sustainability with funding and mentorship, received support from the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, learning how to build out my business, received support from Terrapin Works with their prototyping machines and efforts, and in fact, their software lead, Jack Sturdivant, has actually left that position to work with me full-time. So we have both mechanical and software expertise. And beyond that, just resounding support, including the Clarice itself, allowing us to actually test out these devices.
Thank you, Hyde Rays. Please welcome Padres Preparados, Jóvenes Saludables.
Close to 50% of Latino children are overweight or obese. Childhood obesity is a global health problem, and Matt and I used our expertise in web development and obesity interventions to create Padres Preparados, Jóvenes Saludables, which means prepared parents, healthy youth. Latinos have the highest rates of obesity in the US, and this sets them up for lifelong health problems, including approximately $20,000 in excess medical costs. But the story gets worse. Existing interventions have not found a solution. Few are culturally adapted, and most focus only on mothers. In my work, I found that mothers tried to implement changes at home, but named their male partners as barriers to change. Fathers need to be included. Fathers can make a difference. Research tells us that parental modeling can help shape healthy eating behaviors and improve physical activity levels. But unfortunately, over the last few years, we've found that Latino fathers were unable to come to many in-person sessions because of time constraints and transportation barriers. So Latino families are looking for creative solutions, and we found one. Latinos are using health apps. So we took this and we ran with it. We consulted multiple partners. We looked at the literature in public health, family science, and technology. We collaborated with researchers at the University of Minnesota, and we spoke to community leaders to ensure that we listened to their needs. Based on this, we created a new solution. We created a blended approach that allowed fathers to get 5 in-person sessions and 3 sessions over the app to learn positive parenting practices and nutrition. This increases accessibility for time-constrained, low-income families. But we didn't only teach them the content, we took it a step further. We explained why the content could help address obesity concerns using interactive videos and by giving them the opportunity to evaluate and reflect after each session.
Our app is designed very well. We believed it was strategic to offer our app on 3 platforms, Google Play, iTunes, and a standalone website. To increase security and stability, we used one MySQL database, which powers all 3 platforms. To increase reliability and reduce cost, we use general public license 2.0 open source code. We're very pleased with our app, but it's also very interactive. To increase engagement, we utilized, sorry about that. To increase engagement, we utilized bidirectional text messaging, which basically helped our fathers to receive positive parenting information as well as encouragement throughout the week. So, does it work? Yes. We performed usability testing at Johns Hopkins and discovered that our app was easy to use. We also have a feasibility study underway in Minnesota, and early results show promise. We had 1,000 page views. We're very pleased with the progress we see as a team. Our team is very unique. We are multidisciplinary and interdepartmental, with both family science and behavioral and community health represented. As a team, we are ready to take our app to the next level. With the support of the Do Good Challenge, and your support is critical, we plan on building version 2.0 of this app, which will have a brand new youth center module, which will help increase parent-child engagement. We'll also completely redesign our resources library with a brand new filtering system. Also, with the support of the Do Good Challenge, we plan on applying for an NIH grant this summer. We're very pleased with the progress that we have as a team. I'd like to recognize the many collaborators and partners involved in this project. In particular, I want to recognize the participating families, as well as the Padres Preparados researchers. Without them, we could not have done this. Child obesity is a global public health concern, and we believe that our app is uniquely positioned to make a difference. And you have the opportunity to take this fearless idea and make it a reality. Thank you.
Awesome job, guys. Really important issue. You got to get the dads involved. You can't do much without that, and super important. And I like the focus on a specific segment that you can specifically speak to. I was curious, is this a free app? And do you ever plan to monetize it in any way? And if not, how do you plan to sustain yourselves to get to scale?
So currently, our app is available for free download in the Google Play and the iTunes Store. We performed our usability testing, and we asked that question. And this was at Johns Hopkins. And the families actually said that they would be willing to pay $50 to $70 for something like this. So that was like, wow, you know, because you think of the App Store and how much apps cost. But right now, we're not looking to monetize this. We're looking to make a difference with obesity. So right now, that's not part of our business plan. So.
Well, and once we can show the efficacy of this app, the extension service in the United States, which is through land-grant universities throughout the entire country, would be interested in providing it as a service through the extension. So our hope is that we can prove that it works well enough to spread it nationally.
Right.
Great, awesome.
So I guess my question is, what makes this a father-centered app experience, and what would be different if you made it something available for both parents, and why did you choose not to do that?
Well, both parents are actually able to participate in the program. We don't exclude mothers, but we do require that fathers come, or stepfathers, male figures in children's lives. The app is designed based on what fathers are interested in, based on our work with the community and talking to community leaders, parent advisory boards. But the information works for both parents. It's not something that is only for fathers.
So what makes it look like a father-centered app?
So one of the key components that we felt was very important was the bidirectional text messaging, and actually Amara was the originator of that idea. And fathers need encouragement. They need to be reminded that they are doing a good job. And in our app, we provide, through a tweeting service, it will send out a text message to the father. They'll receive the message on their phone, and then they have the opportunity to respond back to that text message and get more information that we pre-programmed. So we felt, and based on our feedback that we received, that the fathers really enjoy this interactive experience, because many of the fathers are, like Amara was saying, they have time constraints, and they also have transportation barriers, so they're not able to go to the in-person classes. By having a virtual app, they're able to still get that content and feel connected.
Thank you.
This is fascinating to me because, again, when you think about the challenges of chronic diseases that come from health challenges, especially for young people, I have several questions, but I'll try to keep it to two. You know, one of the things I want to understand is, how are you finding your families? And then I want to understand, what have been the impact measures when you think about what has happened with the families that you've been able to work with? What are you seeing that's different in those families? And I'd like to encourage you, when you do your write-up, think about how you mentioned in your pitch about fathers being the barrier in the family to the mothers being able to implement some of these healthy habits and behaviors. I have a husband, yeah, he eats bad sometimes, but I think that, again, usually you assume that mothers are the drivers. And so I'm interested in how that sort of kind of flipped as to the fathers being the barriers when more than likely the mother is preparing the meals. So I understand, how are you finding your families, and what are some of the impact measures that you're seeing with your results?
So we found our families through some amazing community partners. There are two centers at the in the area of the University of Minnesota that have done a lot of the recruiting for us. We're going to start a Maryland program very soon, and we're hoping to work with CASA, which is a local community center for Latino families. And some of the impact measures have been positive parenting practices. We measure pre and post, as well as food and vegetable intake, sugar-sweetened beverages, and number of minutes of physical activity a week.
Thank you. Padres preparados, jóvenes saludables.
Thank you.
Please welcome Synapto.
A couple of years ago, my grandfather was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. But after a series of complicated brain strokes and other cognitive symptoms, we weren't even so sure if Alzheimer's was a culprit. Ever since then, I've always wondered, had we known before, would we have been better prepared? Would his condition be better than it is now? That's the question we're trying to answer here.
An earlier diagnosis would allow families like Dhruv's to plan better for their loved ones. With an earlier diagnosis, there's a better chance for drug treatments to be effective, and it also opens up the possibility for patients to enter novel drug trials. Not only does it improve the quality of life, an earlier diagnosis could save the healthcare system trillions of dollars, and that's why this matters. My name is Mega.
And my name is Dhruv, and we're Synapto. So with Alzheimer's being one of the leading causes of death in seniors in America, diagnosis is still one of the biggest issues. Right now, patients have to undergo a convoluted and complicated pathway for detection, including qualitative cognitive assessments, MRI scans, PET scans, and sometimes even having their spine punctured to confirm a diagnosis. Because these scans and tests are so time-intensive, resource-intensive, require training, and are expensive, they always happen after symptoms are already presented, making this overall hurdle or barrier to obtain a diagnosis extremely high. And one of the biggest issues here is that the entire pathway for diagnosis is not standardized, making Alzheimer's screening not routine.
So how do we go about tackling the technical challenge behind diagnosing Alzheimer's? The first thing we did was pair with an EEG manufacturer that is FDA compliant. An EEG is essentially a brainwave scanner that works by measuring the electrical signals from the scalp of your head. We have paired this with real-world clinical data to develop novel artificial intelligence models that will be able to diagnose and characterize between Alzheimer's and healthy patient. We have gotten upwards of 80 to 85% diagnostic accuracy, and for our work, we were named the first place prize winners of the NIH debut competition, where we were named one of the most promising technologies for the future. We were also finalists in the National BMES Design Challenge, and we've been awarded more than $40,000 for our work.
So we've been working with physician researchers from across the nation, including Dr. Merrill, an associate of UCLA, and Dr. William Cravier, an associate of University of Chicago, to further patient data acquisition and truly develop a humanistic understanding of Alzheimer's neuropathology.
The Alzheimer's Association has predicted that an early diagnosis could save the healthcare system up to $7.9 trillion. And the reason for this is because the disease is better managed, there are fewer complications due to other chronic conditions, and unnecessary hospitalizations are avoided. Complementing this study was a poll done by Harvard that showed that 95% of those 16 over actually want to know if they have the disease. The diagnostic market is large, worth around $9 billion in 2019, and one that is expected to increase with time, with the increasing age of the baby boomer population, as well as increased life expectancy. Right now, there are around 46 million people diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Of this population, around 12 million of those are those with a family history of Alzheimer's, and we want to tackle those who want to know if they have the disease because there's higher incidence and demand within this population.
So MRI and PET scans can cost upwards of $5,000, and a lot of them go largely not reimbursed. Our device is much more cost-effective, only costing $250 per scan to the physician, as well as a $500 monthly rental fee for the hardware, also to the physician. And we know these prices are valid because our FDA-compliant EEG manufacturer partner is currently being reimbursed by CMS upwards of $740 per scan. This means physician adoption becomes a lot more seamless as they stand to make an annual profit of more than $50,000. This truly bridges the gap between an FDA approval and reimbursement, thus further increasing patient cost savings.
Now, lack of reimbursement is one of the reasons why MRI and PET scans are so expensive. We aim to be more affordable than this, but more effective than other qualitative assessments and other companies that fail to use artificial intelligence.
So one of our first steps in our vision to success is gaining more proprietary data. Once we have this, we intend on submitting our findings to a scientific journal using a scientific paper, applying for a patent, and thus follow on investment to conduct a clinical validation trial that will be used in a successful FDA submission under the Breakthrough Device Designation pathway.
Now, in order to accomplish any of this, we need data. With the 5,000, we could purchase up to 75 patients' worth of clinical data, and the reason this is so important is because AI becomes more reliable and more robust with more data, and healthcare data is some of the hardest to find.
This is our entire team comprising of bioengineers, computer scientists with a strong focus in data science, making us well equipped to handle this, to tackle this healthcare problem.
And as you ask questions, we leave you with a poem by Owen Darnell about the tragedy of Alzheimer's. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go first. Dhruv and Mega, great job. And for Dhruv, great to see you back again. I don't know, just quick show of hands, people who were here last year. There you go, yeah. So Dhruv got second place last year, was the runner-up, and so good to see him back. And good to see the progress, building out the team, getting some new advisors, this awesome prototype, all that good stuff. I'm curious, you mentioned the 80 to 85% diagnostic accuracy. What is the sample size that's based on, and how did you guys get the data given that you're mentioning all these constraints in getting the data?
Yeah, for sure. So I can talk a little bit about it and feel free to jump in too. So we've been partnering with institutions globally. So we've been working with University of Sao Paulo in Brazil, Surth Institute in Greece, to work with over a sample size of over 200 patients. But the thing is that these 200 patients the data is not collected in the same way. So it's essentially segmented in terms of university. So in terms of University of Sao Paulo, our leading data set, it's about 50 patients.
And
And the second question was the...
Got it. And another question is just around for 80 to 85%. That's where you're at today. Where do you need to be to get it FDA approved?
Yeah, so we actually conducted an FDA pre-submission where we sat down with the FDA and talked about how our device, healthcare and AI, is going to affect this entire submission process. And they said that there's basically no predicate device out there right now, and so we think that you'll be a very strong candidate for the breakthrough device designation pathway. So essentially, we're going to submit for a formal designation in the next couple months and start working with the FDA to define what exactly parameters need to be met in order to approve this device for this specific clinical indication.
And the great thing about that is we'll be working more closely with the FDA to come up with these standards with them.
I'm truly impressed by what I see here, especially with the model and understanding where you are in terms of the FDA process. Two small questions. One, when you talk about getting 75 more data points in terms of being able to really and truly bring it to scale, how do you deal with the Hipaa privacy requirements that really and truly, a lot of times we hear you're not diagnosed truly with Alzheimer's until you're no longer with us. And so how are you able to get beyond that with those HIPAA privacy requirements, as well as help me understand your business model build out in terms of your cost compared to the $5,000 that typically, we take for these types of tests to get yours to the $500 model?
Yeah, for sure. So HIPAA, we strongly abide by regulation, right? So we strongly abide by IRBs and all HIPAA consent forms. So we actually have HIPAA consent forms ready to go. All of the clinical data is managed in a HIPAA compliant software. So that's not really an issue for us because, and essentially the way that we're going to be getting the 75 patients worth of data is going to be collaborating with another institution to reduce our overhead and to reduce our costs on our end. So that's really strong, and we hope we'll be able to take care of that pretty well. The second question in terms of the business model. So essentially we looked at how much EEG scans are being reimbursed right now and how much a sub-premium can be charged in order to make physician adoption seamless, in order for them to also make money and also for us to make money as well, in terms of it to be mutually beneficial. And using that, we found that there's currently being reimbursed at a baseline of 400, upwards of 740, and by charging the sub-premium at 250, this allows us to it makes sense for the business model, essentially. Yeah.
Thank you, Synapto.
All right, how about one more round of applause for our 3 venture finalists? And our judges are now going to go to the green room to determine first, second, and third. And as I told one of the judges before, because you can see how tough all 6 judges of ours have in picking first, second, and third, there's a reason why I never have volunteered to be a judge for the Do Good Challenge. And now it's also my pleasure to bring to the stage Kalyn Gray, who has been the leader of the Do Good Challenge for the last 4 years. And if this has been not your first, but your second, third, fourth, fifth, or even 8th Do Good Challenge, you know that it gets better every year. So please welcome Kalyn Gray to the stage.
What everyone think of our finalist teams? Let's give everyone one more round of applause. So now it's time for you to be the judge and award $2,500 to your favorite Do Good Challenge finalist team. On the screen will be the text-to-vote information. You only get 1 vote, so make it count. We'll give you a minute to think it over and cast your vote now. All right, Time's up. Voting is closing. All right. Earlier tonight, you all participated in the Do Good Showcase, which included 8 impressive teams, and you voted for your favorite teams with Do Good dollars. So now we're going to bring up the top 2 showcase teams who are going to give a 2-minute lightning pitch. And then after, you'll get the chance to text a vote again with the top showcase team winning $750 and the runner-up receiving $500. So please welcome to the stage our first showcase team, Pausable.
Hi, I'm Vanessa, and I'm with Pausable, and this is Spike, my guide dog in training. Pausable is a puppy raiser support program. Pausable is a puppy raiser support program we have here at University of Maryland chapter for Guide Dog Foundation for the Blind. Our program has 32 guide dogs here on campus and about 100 raisers participating in the raising of these guide dogs. Our Pausable program assists raisers that are in facing financial difficulties. And it costs about a minimum of $400 to be able to raise these guide dog puppies. GDF relies on our volunteer efforts and time to be able to raise these guide dogs. Those $400 are coming out of our pocket and go towards just dog food costs alone. GDF does subsidize some of our vet dog costs as well, but we're responsible for dog food and any other dog toys and other necessities for these puppies. We raise the guide dogs from when they're about 12 weeks old to about 15 months old, and then they go up to the foundation for their formal training. Pausable operates a dog food pantry as well as a puppy raiser assistance fund that helps these raisers facing need. We've had about 5 raisers apply in the past month of our operation, and those 5 raisers have all cited deep need for assistance in their raising. One of our raisers was sacrificing her own food so her dog could eat. We had other raisers that were going further into debt so their puppies could eat as well. So many of our raisers are also paying for their own tuition and school needs to be able to support themselves, but also they are paying to support the life of a puppy. Pausable strives to make equal opportunity volunteering possible when raising guide dogs for the Guide Dog Foundation for the Blind. Our program helps our raisers in need to make sure no raiser or puppy ever goes hungry. Thank you.
And now, please welcome to the stage our second showcase team, Roots Africa.
Gosh, I'll have to bring a dog next year. That was good. I didn't know that was okay. Hi, my name is Jacob Mass, and I'm a member of Roots Africa. Roots works with sustainable agriculture in Liberia. Several decades ago, Liberia encountered a civil war which wrapped up so many people in the conflict that there exists now a generation of farmers that are unfamiliar with sustainable farming practices. Roots has begun to reach out to one of these schools in Liberia that teaches sustainable agriculture to develop solutions and pathways for University of Maryland to make a meaningful difference there. We recognize that the greatest wealth that we have in the United States is knowledge and access to that knowledge, and we hope to share it there. What we did is we started video conferencing with schools in Liberia in classrooms with students and teachers to talk about the specific needs of their community and what problems they encountered. Then we fundraised $25,000 from individuals to fly ourselves out there and host a conference in Liberia to talk to these farmers and really dig down to the root of the problem. I didn't intend to do that. So, after going there, we also brought 500 textbooks with us from the University of Maryland that were privately donated. What we realized when we got there was that yes, books were the problem. Many of these classrooms don't have any books at all, and there's seldom copies of the same book. But what we could do is send them targeted information. Rather than having textbooks that were highly technical to the grade of university-level students, we worked with these students in Africa over video conferencing to talk about their classes, what's in them, and what they need to know specifically. Then we went back and we found specific resources online, compiled them into PDF documents, and began making our own Tiny Books. The Tiny Books initiative uses UMD volunteers in Roots Africa to create these textbooks using McKeldin Library printing for less than $3 a book. The information in them is specifically targeted and worked and collaboratively created with those students using the resources here at University of Maryland. We're anticipating making these books for different regions so that in moving forward, there can be a book for Southern Liberia, a book for Ghana, a book for Sri Lanka, and we can distribute them to supply an entire university in Liberia for less than $1,000, including shipping. They don't have Amazon, I tried. We've also, earlier this week, we had the first Global Collective Conference for University of Maryland. The Global Collective leveraged the support of all of the University of Maryland clubs, including one that you saw earlier today, that were interested in international development for sustainable agriculture. We met at this place with keynote speakers and food provided by the Maryland Food Collective to discuss what kinds of solutions we can make to most effectively use the resources available to us. Out of this became many different connections and resources, and the funding for for which we're applying to the Do Good will go towards promoting that event in the future. I wish I had the pictures to show you of the classrooms we're able to video conference, the amazing people we've been able to meet along the way. You know, they tell you about feeding the children starving in Africa. That's what my mom told me when I wouldn't eat my veggies. But I think this is really important. You know, their lives matter exactly as much as ours do, and we can empower them to help themselves. So, thank you.
All right, everyone, you know the drill. It's time for you to vote for your favorite showcase team. The first place winner will receive $750, and the runner-up will receive $500. And just to remind you, Showcase Team 1 is Possible. Showcase Team 2 is Roots Africa. 1, Possible. 2, Roots Africa. So take a minute to cast your vote now. All right. I promise we are only a couple minutes away from the judges announcing the winners of the Do Good Challenge. So while our judges finish making their deliberations, I want to take a moment to recognize the teams who you haven't seen on stage or in the showcase. Because we receive almost 100 applications every year to the Do Good Challenge. And there are so many groups across this campus who are spending endless hours and countless energy to make impact for the causes that they care about. And a number of them are here tonight, whether they're from classes or student organizations. So whether you're a current student or an alum, if you participated in the Do Good Challenge this year or in past years, I want to ask that you please stand now so that we can recognize you. Thank you to all of our fearless students here tonight. All right, while the judges finish making their decisions, we're gonna play Let's Do Some More Good. We're gonna have the 6 remaining showcase teams come up on stage to go head to head to answer trivia questions about a Do Good Challenge team or Do Good Challenge alum. For the first question they get right, they'll win $100 for their team. If they get a second question right, they'll win a Do Good prize pack. But all of our contestants are gonna take home a Do Good prize pack just for being on stage. But we also want you in the audience to participate. So don't be shy. Shout out what you think is the right answer to help out our contestants. So with that, we're gonna welcome our first 2 contestants, Help Center and Drive Box. All right, so we're gonna start with introductions. Help Center, tell us a little bit about what you do.
We are a peer counseling and crisis intervention hotline. We are accessibly located above the South Campus Diner. No issue is too big or too small.
Very nice. That's an elevator pitch. All right.
So we're DriveBox, and we're designing a self-driving add-on kit that can be installed on any existing vehicle so that the physically limited will have fully independent transportation.
Very nice. All right.
we're going to get started. So just to explain, I'm going to ask you both the question, and you'll have 5 seconds to decide, at which the audience should also be shouting out what you think the answer is. And then when the 5 seconds is up, I'm going to ask you to tell us your answer. You may want to bring your cards so you're not showing your contestant what you might be picking up, right? All right, so are you ready? Audience, are you ready? All right, so we have our first question coming up. So, the Food Recovery Network, the first ever winner of the Do Good Challenge, sparked a national student movement to address food waste and hunger. Since 2012, it has grown 230 chapters across 44 states. Which of these states can you find a Food Recovery Network chapter in? 5 seconds are going on the clock. And then, say. All right. All right. What's your answer?
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Let's see. All right. Very nice. All right. Very nice job. So, second question is coming up. Second question. 2013 Do Good Challenge winner Microjusticia provides legal aid to vulnerable or undocumented Argentinians. How many legal cases have they resolved since 2013? 5 seconds on the clock. We've got maybe some A's, mostly C's. All right, time's up. What do y'all think?
C, go big or go home.
All right, going with the audience vote. Let's see. Let's see. It is C. All right, very nice. Congratulations to you both. And so let's give a round of applause for our first two contestants. And welcome to the stage, Motion Project and Scholars in Action. All right. So we're going to start over here. Tell us a little bit about Scholars in Action.
Scholars in Action is a community service-focused initiative in the College Park Scholars community that believes that by bettering the world around you, you better your education and yourself.
Very nice. Donald?
So the Motion Project provides educational support for students with physical disabilities in Sri Lanka.
Very nice. All right. Short and sweet. All right, so we have your question coming up. Again, 5 seconds, consider your answer. Ben Simon, graduate of 2014, is the co-founder and CEO of America's leading ugly produce company, Imperfect Produce. Ben was named by Forbes as one of 30 under 30 social entrepreneurs and won a Do Good Something award on what television network? Ben, you can't say anything back there. Audience, we have 5 seconds on the clock. We got some, what do you guys, select your answers? Select your answers. All right, what do you think?
I'm gonna go ABC.
ABC. Oh, ABC. Oh, ABC. So C. All right, and what about you, Donald?
Going ABC as well.
Okay, you're going with C. Let's see the answer. Oh, it's actually B, which should be VH1. VH1 is the answer. All right, VH1. So, sorry about that. Maybe better luck at the next question. Okay, next question coming up. What former Do Good Challenge winner is a recipient of the brand new Do Good Award from the Alumni Association? 5 seconds on the clock. Select your answers. Select your answers. All right.
I'm gonna go B.
B.
Going with Jonathan for B.
All right, let's take a look. I'm so sorry, it's Leonard Bowers. Jonathan Fix also won an award, but not the Do Good Award specifically. All right, no problem. You'll still be getting a prize pack. Everybody, let's thank our contestants. And we're going to welcome to the stage Chat Health and Peer to Peer for our last two trivia questions. All right. Peer-to-peer, why don't you start?
Yeah, so we're peer-to-peer. Our mission is to provide educational support and opportunities for refugee youth in Prince George's County. So how we do this is we host after-school weekly programs at a middle school and high school in partnership with the IRC, which is a resettlement agency.
Very nice. All right.
Hi.
You look familiar.
Sorry, yeah. Hi, I'm representing Chat Health, and we're using artificial intelligence to reduce the disease burden of vaccine-preventable diseases on college campuses.
You're on 2 teams. You see how ambitious our students are? 2 teams on stage twice tonight. All right, so we have our first question for you all coming up. Students Helping Honduras, 2014 Do Good Challenge winner, supports education for children in Honduras by building schools. Since 2011, the chapter at Maryland has fundraised $200,000 and built how many schools? All right, choose your answer, choose your answer. All right, pick it up before I ask. All right, what do you think? A. A? A? Let's see. Oh, yes, congratulations, very nice. All right. So we have our last trivia question coming up. Terps Against Hunger, 2015 Do Good Challenge winner, has packaged over 1 million meals for families in need in the DC area. Terps Against Hunger hosts an annual meal packaging event as part of what University of Maryland tradition? All right. What are you going to go with, audience? What do you think? That seemed to be a resounding answer. What do you think?
B.
B?
Gonna have to go with B.
Let's go with the audience choice again. Let's see. B is the correct answer. All right, very nice. All right, so let's give all of our contestants a big round of applause. That is a wrap for this edition of Let's Do Some More Good.
All right, my friends, now the moment you've been waiting for. I'd like to, that's right. I'd like to have all of our finalist teams, showcase teams, President Lowe, Dean Orr, and all of our judges come to the stage to announce the winners. And Kalyn Gray is going to come back to the stage to announce the Audience Choice Awards. Let's hear a round of applause.
All right, so we've tallied the votes, and I need the winner of the Finalist Audience Choice Award, which is, I could take a guess.
Trying to ice you.
All right, now we have, okay, so the Finalist Audience Choice Award goes to Camp Kesem. All right. And the Showcase Audience Choice Award goes to Possible. So that means our runner-up showcase is Roots Africa. All right. And now I'm going to welcome Paul Monteiro to the podium to announce our project winners.
Thank you. What a great night to be a Terp. What a great night. I have the privilege of announcing our project winners. We'll start with our third place. It was a tough deliberation with my fellow judges, Nikki and Dana. We came up with third place in the project track, going to Public Health Without Borders. Obviously, you're dealing with a pressing need. We salute your cultural sensitivity, which is very important. And we just encourage you to, again, look at partnering with larger organizations, even using maybe the $400 that you would use to start your own C3 to partner with a larger foundation, maybe the university's foundation. But congratulations. And now our first place winner in the project track. All right, go ahead. You had us at School to Pedagogy Pipeline. Flame is our first place winner in the project track. You've chosen to help our local neighbors in need with a potentially life-changing career track. And we just encourage you to think about further root causes in the system and advocate for system-wide change at the county council and Board of Education level. But congratulations, Flame. And let's not forget our second place winner in the project track, Camp Kesem. Clearly, you had, I think, the best presentation. It was a great start to the round. You're addressing an unmet need, which is important, and comforting individuals in a meaningful and authentic way. So we just encourage you to use that $2,000 for the video because you have a great story. If more people know about it, you're going to get so much support. So congratulations. Thank you. And now, I'd like to welcome Dan Porterfield to the podium to announce the winners of the venture track.
Thank you, everybody, for being here today. The judges felt this was absolutely impossible to decide among these three forms of excellence that are almost incomparable. It's like having Eleanor Roosevelt, Beyonce, and President Lowe. How could you pick? All the best in class. So we'd like to start with our third place winner in the venture track, which is Padres Preparados. We think that you identified a critical issue. This is an incredibly important approach you're taking. It's tech savvy. It's culturally very thoughtful. We want to encourage you to keep thinking about how do you demonstrate the impact of your approach, and also how do you evaluate the cost of delivering this program at scale. And we thank you so much for this wonderful, wonderful presentation. Now our first place winner in the venture track is Hyde Rays. And we want to congratulate you on identifying a key campus, social, and environmental issue, describing its importance brilliantly. The idea is innovative and it's actionable. It can have real impact, and we think you actually demonstrated the impact, or at least described the impact in very impressive ways. Clearly, this has the potential to go big. We want to encourage you to really look at your real costs at scale, to really have that down, and also to start thinking about sort of a sales strategy for both businesses and for households. It's clearly time for a 5-year plan. Congratulations. Now, our second place winner is Synapto. And for those of us that were part of this last year, it was exciting to see clear progress from last year's excellent presentation as well, and this year was even stronger. You demonstrated just a tremendously impressive grasp of the importance of the issue. This is a huge problem with a huge market. It's a model that makes sense intuitively, and there's probably a bit of work to do to overcome the hurdles that some listeners may have about, is your approach really going to work? I think that's going to be the big challenge in something so complex, so scientific, so ethically critical to get right. How do you overcome the little bit of skepticism that some might feel that this entirely novel approach to a problem of this enormity has not been undertaken by anybody else before? And we really want to recommend that you engage with the Alzheimer's Association or some other validators to help position your project along with others in a way that will help you build up even greater credibility with the audience. And we really think you're on the right track and doing impressive work. And we want to thank you and thank all who presented today on both tracks. Obviously, give great thanks to this audience, the Do Good Institute, and all who support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, my friends, that concludes the 8th annual Do Good Challenge. Now, my friends, go out and do good, and we'll see you next year.